So recently I had my first ever 5-gram psilocybin mushroom experience, and there's been quite a few people interested in regards to, hey Johnny, what did you do to prepare for it? So in this video I'll be going through the steps that I did to go and prepare for it so that you can get an idea in terms of how you can also prepare as well. So remember guys, the themes that I'm discussing in this video, they are recommendations based on my own experience. It doesn't mean that it will actually work for you, so you must test it out for yourself. I also don't recommend anyone or any beginner do 5 grams worth of mushrooms straight away. You have to really build up to that. Please, when you're taking mushrooms, ease on the side of caution and keep safe and informed when you're taking them. So we first got introduced to the 5-gram dose, or what some call the heroic dose, by Terence McKenna. He suggested taking 5 dried grams of psilocybin mushrooms in silent darkness, stating that if you want to really delve deep into the mushroom experience, perhaps see little green men and plunge yourself into the abyss, then this is the threshold dose to take. They call it the heroic dose because when you take this amount of mushrooms, you're actually increasing the likelihood of experiencing a trip that might not be suitable for you, or what you call a bad trip. Now, a bad trip is not necessarily a bad experience. You get the trip that you need. This means doing this actually takes a lot of courage. You're gonna have to be brave, or you just decided to be a complete idiot. Now, in saying this, I think taking 5 grams is somewhat an inaccurate representation of how much mushrooms you want to take to reach these states. It also really highly depends on you, your size, your weight, whether your experience, how sensitive you are. It really depends on the person itself ingesting the actual mushrooms. For example, I'm quite a big guy. I'm 6'3", 85 kilos. I require a little bit more in order to get me to reach to these certain states. The other thing to watch out for is the actual strain of mushrooms. Some strands are actually stronger and more potent than other strands. You want to really take this into account because you don't want to get the wrong strand and think you're taking 5 grams, where in actual fact it's more like 7.2 grams or something like that. Something stronger, you could say. So what I did with my first 5 grams, I took a strain called Psilocybin cubensis McKennae, the hybrid strain from Holland, and funnily enough named after Terence McKenna. And the reason why I picked the McKennaes were, well, I was just interested in it. It seemed like a very potent mushroom, and that's what I wanted to try. So for my mindset, I didn't only prepare my mind, but my body as well, my bodily energies. So what I realized was that your body is like a computer. It can receive downloads, and in this case it's downloads from the cosmos, from a higher intelligence that's beyond just yourself. Therefore, when you've brought the right conditions, the right preparations to your mind and to your body, you are more susceptible to receiving those downloads and being able to retain it. The other thing why it's so important to prepare your mindset is that it minimizes the chances of having a bad trip. Now, a bad trip is not necessarily bad. You do end up getting the trip that you need. However, by preparing adequately, you're lessening the chances of going to those dimensions, those dark places. You're increasing your odds. It doesn't mean that it's 100% bulletproof. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get a bad trip anyway, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. However, by doing the preparation, it actually helps you to give you a better chance in getting the trip that you needed, whilst having an experience that, well, let's say it's in your favor. It's a transformative experience that's going to leave you with like an afterglow. In saying all this, as you know, I can't guarantee the fact by doing this preparation that you're going to have these effects. Everyone is different. This is what has worked for me so far. Every time I prepare adequately, I get better, you could say, results. I know that sounds strange to actually say that because you never know what's going to happen with each and every psychedelic experience. But I'm finding I'm going into good vibes with myself. I'm going into good mood with myself before going to the trip, which will make, I feel, the experience go that much better. For this trip, I decided to actually go into nature. We went and hired a place up in the mountains. I wanted to be with the forest, with the streams and the trees. Even though I would ingest the actual mushrooms indoors, I still wanted to be surrounded by the energy of nature. As you know, when you go out in nature and you go and find yourself a really nice place up in the woods or on the beach or something like that, and it's a beautiful place, you're gonna feel naturally great. It will help you to feel that much better. So for me, that's the reason why, even though I was doing it indoors. So all in all, I took 4 days off. Now you don't actually need to take 4 days. I would suggest a minimum of 3 days. But anyway, I took 4 days off. I just wanted time for myself, a couple of days of preparation, a day for the actual experience itself, and lastly, another day to chill and to really ease into the integration process. In my previous experience, I found that the integration period can last for months and even years, especially if the experience was life-altering. So taking adequate time off to go into an experience like this really does show a level of respect for these entheogens, as well as commitment to the process. The first few days of my break, I would go for walks amongst the trees and swim in the stream that was there. The energy I felt of the forest really made me feel calmer. And I think this is really important. If you can do anything you can in order to put you already in a serene state before actually going into the mushroom experience itself, I think it's highly important. The other things that I would do in order to connect with myself and to feel that serene peace is to do yoga, meditation, did my breathing exercises, making yourself feel good before entering the trip itself. The other thing that I did to prepare before going into the experience is to actually look at my intention and really focusing on that. Last but not least, going into the experience is also to let go of the actual intention. Now that might seem counterintuitive, but that's how the universe works. In order to get what you want or to receive, you have to be willing to let go. So that's the final step. So I find that letting go is so important in regards to receiving those insights that are going to come your way. What's also really important is the food that you eat prior to actually ingesting the mushrooms. So for the first 2 days during this preparation, I would only eat 2 very light meals, and they would consist of mainly fruit and vegetables, as well as a lot of filtered water. The day of the actual mushroom trip, I would actually eat a very light meal in the morning, just some fruit, some water, and I would fast for the rest of the day, in which I would take the actual mushrooms later on that evening. The reason behind why I do this is because it really makes the body more sensitive to when you're ingesting the actual mushrooms, so to have more pronounced effects, you could say. I know when I'm having a psychedelic mushroom experience, I want to be in a comfortable and safe environment. This also meant that I wanted to have great vibes in the place that I was going to be. The place itself was great already, it was calm, it was peaceful, but you know, you can always add a little bit of your own flavor into it. So what my girlfriend and I did, we got some incense, we got some Palo Santo, we cleansed the energy of the actual space itself. You know, you're raising the vibration of the space to ensure a safe journey and making yourself feel comfortable. Another important factor is to actually have a trip sitter, which in this case is actually my girlfriend. I knew if something was to go wrong, she would be there to care for me and to handle the situation. So having a trip sitter really does put your mind at ease, because you know that you're safe, that you feel that somebody is there to look after you in case something goes wrong. So you want to make sure the trip sitter that you pick is somebody that you trust, somebody that has your best intentions, and yeah, it's just somebody that's going to put you at ease and you feel great that the fact that they're just there. And this is really going to help you during the trip. Now I know in the beginning of this video Terence McKenna recommended doing the 5-gram trip in silent darkness, but I did it with having headphones on and listening to music in which I thought would be more suitable for this experience. And oh boy, did the music play a very important role. My gut feeling going into this was I really wanted to create a playlist that I was highly conscious about picking, carefully choosing each track and what order they would play in. It turned out that the series of songs that I would combine together allowed me to really focus on my experience and really helped me to navigate my consciousness, thus eventualizing my intention. It also, weirdly enough, I was able to keep track where I was in these trips. Even though I was in a timeless dimension, I was able to keep track based on the beats, based on the sounds and the vibrations, where I was in the trip, whether I had a couple hours to go, 4 hours to go, or the trip was nearing. The music, in actual fact, acted as like a signpost, you could say, during this time. If you're interested in the songs that I played, I'll put a list in the description below, along with the order I played it in. I will explain further in my trip report on how each song helped me to better remember my experience and retain my information. So choose your music consciously and with intent, and I really think it would really help you during the trip. So the time has come for me to actually take the mushrooms themselves. So what did I actually do for this? Well, I measured out 5 dried grams of my Psilocybin McKenna. So what I did was I chopped them up into little pieces and put them in the cup. Normally I'll just blend them. I wanted to do something special this time around, which was to add cacao. And so that's what I did. I put about 1.5 tablespoons of cacao and put some water into it. Now I made sure that the water wasn't hot, that it was slightly warm, because if you have the water too hot, I found that it actually reduces the potency of the psilocybin itself. So you want to keep it away from anything that's hot. And the reason why I chose cacao was because it's actually another plant teacher. When you ingest it, you feel lightheartedness, you feel warmth. They say that it's actually a heart-opening medicine. I believe the ancient Aztecs used cacao for their ceremonies and in fact put mushrooms and combined cacao together as part of their rituals. This idea of using cacao would actually help me to open up my heart and intensify the effects of the mushrooms slightly. You see, with cacao, it's a mild MAO inhibitor that allows more serotonin and neurotransmitters more than normal to be circulating around the brain at the same time. So since the mushrooms bind with your serotonin receptors, having more of them would mean that you would actually have a more intensified experience. Now look, you don't have to do the combination with cacao. Others choose to make it into a tea, eat it, put lemon with it. So there's different combinations that you can do when it comes to ingesting the actual mushrooms itself. Okay guys, so well that's it. That's how I prepared for my first 5-gram trip experience. Like I said, if you actually want to see the trip report itself, click on the link above and I'll get you to that video. And speaking about the actual trip, boy, that was one heck of an experience. Let's just say I got the experience that I needed, answered the intention that I had, and also met a lot of alien entities along the way. Anyway, as always, when you're taking mushrooms, stay safe, stay informed. Do your research when it comes to these entheogens. Remember not to follow just what I say, but just to test it out for yourself. It's really highly important that you do this. Also, let me know in the comments below whether you actually found this information that I've shared with you actually useful. I would also like to know perhaps what you guys do to prepare for a mushroom experience. Perhaps I need to learn a thing or two myself. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and if you really want to make a contribution, I have a Patreon page. You can contribute on there so that I can make more of these videos. Otherwise, take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one.